Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County branch of the League of Women Voters of New York State, one of the civic partners for our show. Today, I'm going to welcome two new guests to North Country Matters. With me are Sasha Henderson and Matilda Larsen. Sasha is a St. Lawrence University senior majoring in psychology and history with a minor in public health, and Matilda is with the St. Lawrence County Planning Office. They are here to discuss the results of a recent study urging the county to begin preparing for both a population decline and an increase in the number of people over 65 years old. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Great. This situation is not unique to St. Lawrence County by any means, nor is even unique to New York State. According to a recent study, Keeping Pace with an Aging New York State, that took place over a 10-year period from 2011 to 2021 by the New York State city-based think tank called a Center for an Urban Future, the state's older population is even outpacing overall population growth in every county and in most of the target cities. In fact, nearly 1 in 5 New Yorkers is 65 years or older. That's about 18%. It's 3.5 million New Yorkers, more than the population of 21 other states in this country, according to Robin Haberman, who is the AARP New York State Associate Director. It's also the largest share of the state's population than ever before. So let's dive into what the St. Lawrence County report says and what it found. Matilda, you're with the County Planning Office. How did your office decide to do this study, and how did you decide Sasha was the right person for it?
The County Planning Office provides staff support, excuse me, to 4 county advisory boards. One of those boards is called the Fair Housing Task Force. The task force was established a few decades ago with the responsibility of what the state and federal governments ask fair housing organizations to do, and that is to affirmatively further fair housing rights. The state and federal fair housing laws were passed in an effort to help address instances of housing discrimination that are being committed against people who are either disabled, have a different skin color, have a different nationality, sexual orientation, a certain familial status, whether they're married or single parent with children. And there are federal and state laws in place that prohibit from engaging in discriminatory behavior when advertising a house for sale or for rent. And so one of the responsibilities of the organization is to affirmatively further fair housing, and it's done by way of the preparation of what's called an assessment of fair housing. And so it involves diving into statistical data on segments of the population that fit into what are called these protected classes. And so for a number of years now, the County Planning Office has partnered with St. Lawrence's Public Interest Corps program, which partners qualified upperclassmen student into summer internship positions. And so at the end of every year, our office will examine whether or not an opportunity for an internship exists and then submit a proposal. And if it's accepted by St. Lawrence University, we then interview a handful of candidates and find who is the best fit based on what we are looking for in the scope of work for that year. So last spring, we had the opportunity to interview Ms. Sasha, and we provided our feedback to St. Lawrence and said, we think she'll be great. And she was. She exceeded our expectations.
That is a great program. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, so it's wonderful that students are getting real-world experience in a way that really helps all of us here in the county as we go forward. One quick question for you, Matilda. You said you provide information to 4 different councils. Who else besides Fair Housing gets your work?
There are 3 other advisory boards. Excuse me. The others are the Public Transit Task Force, because our office is responsible for administering the county public transit programs. We also provide staff support to the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. And last but not least, we also provide staff support to the County Planning Board, which assists local governments in the review of various land use projects. And for projects that present countywide significance, the County Planning Board will take action on those projects and provide feedback to local planning boards and zoning boards of appeal.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that more fulsome answer about the work that you folks do. So, Sasha, obviously you and Matilda had a great relationship during this project, and she's happy to have you, and you were happy to do the work. And the focus of your work this last year was just up until 2021. So give us a sense, if you would, of some of the factors that you looked at as you began your assessment.
Yeah, so as Matilda was talking about the protected classes, that's under the Fair Housing Act from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, as like we would call it in the office. And so those protected classes, again, included you couldn't discriminate people from accessing housing based off of race, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. And so what I was looking into were the socioeconomic demographics throughout the county that are under the opportunity indicators that are under HUD and under the protected classes. And so those included poverty, education, employment, transportation, and health. First being poverty, I would look into what was the poverty rate in the county as a whole, but then also throughout the county by census tracts to see which pockets of the county were disproportionately burdened by poverty. And so I took that data and then put it into a mapping system, geographic information systems, and created maps to visualize the poverty in the area, as well as the diversity in the area. St. Lawrence is a very predominantly white county, as I'm sure a lot of people know. And so it's really important that for the individuals in the county who are not white, that they are getting equal opportunities to access fair and affordable housing. And so, yeah, that I was mainly looking at poverty, and then how different things like transportation was influenced by poverty, how like housing quality in certain areas were influenced. If they were influenced by poverty, I was kind of trying to see if there was like a correlation between higher poverty levels in certain census tracts, and if there was a correlation between that and different opportunity indicators.
You know, the kind of work that you did is the kind of work that the state is doing in many places around the issue of the aging population, but also rural populations and poverty. Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli's office just released a study looking into the challenges facing rural communities across the state. And although his report didn't look at St. Lawrence County specifically, it did include our neighbor Lewis County. And that study focused on declining populations, an aging population, the heavy dependence on cars for transportation, something that can present hardships not only for older folks, but younger folks as well, or people without the income to maintain a personal vehicle. So that dovetails nicely with Matilda's work for the transportation part of St. Lawrence County. And we know that a lot of the housing stock in St. Lawrence County is older, particularly in the more rural parts of the county. And that means it's often not energy efficient. It relies on wood or fuel oil for heat, and it may lack insulation and weather-tight windows and doors. So, Sasha, tell me what conclusions you reached about the steps the county needs to take to address the current housing needs and those we're going to face moving into the future.
Yeah, so like as you mentioned, the housing stock in the county is can be pretty old depending on where you are. And so I think the county really needs to address the quality of that housing and make sure that it's safe and reliable for the increasing aging population, as well as I think as the population is getting older, the disability rate is also getting older. And so the county has to make sure that the housing is appropriate for people who are living with certain disabilities to be able to live there and navigate freely without feeling as though they're inhibited due to poor quality housing. That being said, I think it's also important to keep in mind that the county has a very large population of Schwarzentrooper Amish living in the county, and so their income could be skewing the poverty rate. It could also be skewing like housing quality if they don't have full kitchen facilities or plumbing. That's going to be included in the statistics that are reporting houses that lack full facilities. And so I think the county needs to do a really good assessment to distinguish between actual poor quality housing and then like Amish households that are intentionally limiting their facilities or limiting the income that they're bringing in. I think that also ties into, I looked at overcrowding conditions in households. And so Amish families can typically be a lot larger than I guess Western families. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but yeah, I think the county needs to be really careful in their assessment to distinguish between the two groups of people.
You know, actually, the Amish often call us the English community. So just as opposed to Western, where we're known as the English to them. So,
Okay.
Matilda, we know that seniors want to age in place as much as possible, but that can be a challenge as people age. In fact, I did a North Country Matters a few years ago with Andrea Montgomery, who is the Office of the Aging Director, and we talked a lot in that show about thinking ahead to get your house ready for you if you want to stay in it. And certainly some of the issues that Sasha just mentioned about increasing disabilities and things like that are going to come into effect. So what resources can the county bring to bear on these issues for our increasing and aging senior population?
I'm so glad you asked. The county for more than 2 decades now has successfully administered both state and federal home repair programs. In years past, when more federal dollars were flowing through the Community Development Block Grant Program, the county would consistently apply for funds to either administer programs on behalf of a local jurisdiction. And this sort of ties back to Sasha's recommendation about really quantifying the kind and type of housing stock by community. One of the primary tasks that is completed by the planning office when a grant is written on behalf of a local jurisdiction is conducting what's called a windshield survey of houses in a community. And it's essentially 2 to 3 days of staff time of driving every single road in a local jurisdiction, and then from the street evaluating, does that house look standard, meaning that it doesn't require any home repair? Is it substandard where it would benefit from some improvements? Is it severely substandard where a significant amount of resources would be required? Or is it dilapidated? And those are criteria that are provided to us by the state. In years past, that has been the common practice. However, we have seen over a period of time a diminishment in the availability of funds where it no longer made sense for the counties to submit multiple applications for home repair programs. So instead, we changed tact and now provide housing repair assistance on a countywide basis. And the list for assistance often consistently has exceeded what is available for assistance. And that's through the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That's true for the Weatherization Program. That is also the case with our home repair program. In that home repair program, there are certain categories of individuals who would qualify automatically for assistance. One is based on age, and the other is based on disability. In order to participate in a community development block grant program, you have to be an eligible household to participate. And the house has to be either moderately substandard or severely substandard in order to qualify for assistance. It can't be a nice house that doesn't require any assistance, and it can't be dilapidated to the point where putting in money doesn't make sense, couldn't bring it back to code is the common phrase. So for as long as I've been with St. Lawrence County, the Community Development Block Grant Program has existed since the 90s. So that's one facet of assistance that has been provided. There is a second facet of assistance that has been provided in tandem, and that is the first-time homebuyer program. This ties back to some longstanding circumstances that have existed in the county that we have benefited from, and that is having affordable housing compared to the rest of the state. The types of homes that you find available for sale in some of the county's population centers, you can still purchase at around $120,000, $150,000. There aren't very many locations like that in the Northeast, let alone the United States. So one of the best success stories that we continue to have is what we call the first-time homebuyer program. So young individuals typically who are looking to purchase a home complete a home buyer curriculum with us. And once they've completed that class, they can receive down payment assistance and then a certain amount of funds to repair the house that they are interested in purchasing. That not only helps restore a community's housing stock, but it also builds equity in an income qualified household. And the default rate for that particular program is very low. It often beats what is available through the conventional mortgage market. And so those are gems of success that we have had, and that is Community Development Block Grant Program, housing repair, and then through the first-time homebuyer program.
That is a lot of work on your part. I'm very interested in what you call your windshield program, where you actually drive around on streets. I know in St. Lawrence County, particularly in the southern part of the county, there are a lot of second homes, camps, cottages, things that people don't live in year round. So you have to take those out of your assessment.
Correct, we do. Waterfront properties, they're not eligible for assistance because they are typically identified either as a camp or a second home. And truth be told, the person who is probably residing in those locations, they probably have sufficient resources to live in a standard house.
Right. And they've chosen not to because they want the waterfront. So I can understand that. You know, as someone who lives in an old house in Potsdam, our house is almost 200 years old. So I know what we have put into it over the years to bring it up to code and to modernize it and make it more efficient and more comfortable. And it's definitely it's a labor of love, and it's also a long-term project. None of these improvements happen overnight, do they?
Correct. And the program does do soup to nuts work. One of the requirements for the Community Development Block Grant Program is that you can't go in and just do one thing. For instance, if a senior citizen came to us and said, I'm looking to see if modifications could be done to my house where grab bars, ramps, other items that can be invested to help increase the longevity of their tenure in their home. That certainly can be done, but other components of a home that are evaluated during that process are what's the roof look like? What's the electrical look like? How's the plumbing? How is the foundation? How are the windows? So a complete comprehensive assessment is done to evaluate what other investments are required in order to achieve housing quality standards.
Another question I have for you, Matilda, is do you have, when you are making these assessments and providing money, do you have a list of contractors that are approved, or can the owner just go to anybody, or do you try to make sure it's an approved, licensed contractor?
We have to go with the latter. We do not enter into a financial arrangement where the homeowner does their own work. That creates a conflict of interest. The programs are administered through two organizations that we partner with. One is the North Country Housing Council. They administer our first-time homebuyer program. The other agency that we work with is called the Development Authority of the North Country, and they administer the countywide home repair program. And in order to administer those funds, we are always seeking contractors who would be interested in doing this type of work for us. So they have a clerk of the works that walks in, does an assessment of the house, writes up the scope of work and an internal cost estimate. That scope of work is then gone out to bid to qualified contractors who are interested in participating in the program. Those bids are reviewed and then are qualified, and then the lowest reasonable bid is selected for improving that house.
Thanks. It's good to know that those controls and oversights are in place, because the last thing anybody wants to do is waste these precious dollars, which are harder to get a hold of than they used to be. So that's a good thing. So my final question for both of you is, is there anything to suggest that St. Lawrence County is not typical in your findings and conclusions? In other words, can other rural counties in New York State learn from this study and use it perhaps as a springboard for their own action?
Yes, that's the short answer. There are some additional tasks that we intend to pursue to complete the study. So Sasha was really great at looking at the bigger picture. Here's what we have for a snapshot up until 2021. And there are some nuances that we need to make to that, because 2021, we were right in the thick of COVID. Some economic changes have occurred over the last 2 years, and those do need to be taken into account. But once we have sat down to look at the current circumstance from a 100,000-foot view, the Fair Housing Task Force will now look amongst the stakeholder agencies and say, okay, what can we do about some of these issues? What resources do we have available? What strategies can we come up with? And with those strategies, what will yield some impacts within a reasonable time frame and be meaningful. And from that, we develop strategies. And that approach can be replicated by any county government across the state. And I think that they do. They are also preparing their own assessments of fair housing. An additional next step that I think we will pursue, not with Sasha, because I know she'll be moving on and doing great things, but my plan is to partner with St. Lawrence University's GIS lab. Not too long ago, CNY Fair Housing, which is a regional organization that does testing, that does training for local jurisdictions on fair housing rights, did a really interesting story map on land use regulations and how they affect the availability of affordable housing. I would like to replicate that. That is my goal. And so my intent would be to partner with St. Lawrence to find a very highly qualified GIS candidate who'd be willing to take that on as a senior project, and then create a storyboard for us on identifying opportunities where new housing investment can be made countywide.
Wow, that sounds very exciting, and it looks to me like I might have another North Country Matters out of that program. So,
Give me 20 months and I
all
think
right,
we'll be
will
there.
do. So Sasha, let's go back to you for a second. So, this project was sort of a perfect fit for your public health minor, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really great. I honestly wasn't like whenever I applied for it, I sort of just did it like just because I wanted an internship. But then once I like interviewed and talked to Matilda about some of the things that I could potentially complete with the planning office, I think it was a really great fit. Yeah, I'm sort of like as you introduced me with my majors and minor, like I'm sort of all over the place with psych and history. And so going into the summer, I sort of thought like I'll do this for experience, see how I like it, but like I think I want to pursue psychology. But now I'm sort of reworking my plans and thoughts because I'm starting to think something more along the lines of a career in public health, maybe not exactly county planning, but like something along the lines of looking at demographics in certain areas. Maybe it'll be St. Lawrence County again. Looking into that and figuring out ways in which we can help better whatever conditions it might be that I'm looking into. So yeah, I'm still not entirely sure what my plans after graduation are looking like, but I'm thinking maybe a master's in public health would be a good fit because yeah, I really enjoyed my time in the planning office and the work that we were able to complete together. So.
You know, when we look at issues, problems, things that need to be solved, and we use the lens of public health, we often come up with better solutions than because that's the model that we use. And I'm very happy to hear that you have really taken this project on. You've done a great job with it. Clearly, you've helped the county think about something that we all need to deal with as a society. So I appreciate both of you coming in today and your unique perspectives on this issue. Good luck to you, young lady. Needless to say, I'll be interested. I'll be interested to see where you go from here because obviously a few doors have been opened with your time with county planning. Matilda, I will definitely be back in touch with you because your office is doing some really interesting work. So I thank you both for coming in today, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate being given the opportunity to participate. And what I shared with Sasha at the end of her internship was this is a glimpse into the graduate level work that she will be doing, the type of data collection, the written analysis, and then also because she was accelerating in her scope of work in her internship with us, she said, I'm going to learn how to use mapping software so that I can map some of this data. And so Sasha is going to go do great things. And we were really lucky to have her in our office.
Well, I think St. Lawrence County has been lucky to have her as well. So again, thanks to both of you. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters. This shows a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters.